Hey Megan, how you doing?
I am doing well, thank you. I am doing well. I got your
Excellent.
message about a hot topic for
Yeah,
today,
yeah.
and let's hear it. What do you got?
Well, if there's a new bill going through Congress right now, and it's interesting part. It's a bipartisan bill that's approved overwhelmingly by both sides of the House, so that's a good thing for us. It's really the idea behind it is to make housing more affordable and more available. Really, is what it is, and they're calling it the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. So if you see that in the media or on the news, that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. Um, it's it looks like there's a lot of layers to it, and let's crack open some of these nuts. So let's talk about the first one is the institutional investor ban. And you and I just sort of touched on that a little bit.
Right, right.
And you hear people sometimes say, "Oh, all the investors are buying up all the houses." And in reality, in Orange County, there's not big groups of investors buying up housing and stealing housing from homeowners. You know, you see the individual flippers and the people get hard money loans and that sort of thing. But there's not big corporations coming in and buying up property in Orange County. You will see some of that um, in a little bit in Georgia,
Right.
a little bit in the Sun Belt, mostly in areas where the cost to acquire a house is less than 300,000.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
So that's not really going to
Yeah, not so
affect
much
us.
here.
Yeah.
I think
Let's
that
see.
I
Oh,
think
here it is.
yeah.
Georgia, it's 4%.
Mhm.
Jacksonville, Florida, less than 4%. Charlotte, 3 to 4%. Memphis, 4%. And Dallas and Phoenix, there's some. But, Dallas and Phoenix, they're expensive now, too. And there's a
Yeah,
major.
I mean, my gosh, yes. I mean, go to, for example, Scottsdale, places like that
Gosh.
even.
Oh,
My
yeah.
gosh, isn't that
Yeah.
so?
I love
That's not far away.
Scottsdale. Send me there with the saguaro
Hmm.
cactus and the river. Okay, the next one here talks about zoning and building modernization.
Hmm.
And I think that if you haven't dealt a lot with the city for different projects and all this other kind of stuff, it's like, oh yeah, zoning and building modernization sounds great. Um, what it's really talking about is creating pattern books so that it's easier to permit or build, ADUs or
Hmm.
turn a single family house into a duplex,
Hmm.
loosen up even more on parking restrictions, which I don't know how we could be any looser, and that sort of thing. Add density bonuses, things like that, which, it all sounds good and dandy
Hmm.
until like it's your neighbor next door and they're building, a 4-story
Yeah.
apartment building in your single family neighborhood, and that becomes a problem. So it's a little concerning, it's like quality of life kind
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
And there's a bigger picture and a reason why houses are so expensive, which we will not get into at this junction. But it just seems like the government's trying to create uh, a Superman effect to come in and fix things for people when this has to do with how money's lent and all this other kind of stuff. So
Right, right. Well, I think part of the housing bill, and there's a lot, they say there's a lot of layers behind this. It's not passed the entire House yet, but right now it's looking like it probably will. But there could be also some revisions of that before it's finalized. But I think part of the spirit behind that bill, Megan, is to make the process of permits for builders to be a little bit easier and more streamlined. The process to getting homes built these days is just it's just so mired in paperwork and detail and delays, and that's also creates an affordability issue. So I think overall we may not see the impact as much here in our area, but I think there might be a bigger impact in other parts of the country, as you mentioned, where there's housing is a lot more affordable, a lot lower prices, and It's going to knock out the big investor community for one, which is, I think, healthy overall. But I think but if builders can get houses built more efficiently, that's good for the market as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, you hope that there's some kind of savings passed on to the home buyer. So that has yet to be proven. I went to a meeting at the city of Anaheim a few months ago that was hosted by the Economic Development Department, and it was a pretty big meeting. I mean, there were probably, gosh, I don't know, like 60 people there,
Wow.
and there were people that represented builders of residential, commercial. We had somebody who was building a Starbucks. We had somebody else who was building at the OC Vibe. It was a very mixed group of people. And the city of Anaheim wanted to find out how they can do things better, faster, stronger, that sort of thing. And it really just, the whole way that people, get permits and have projects go through is like a big mess. And it takes forever for things to get processed. And like the city outsources another company to look through like the plans and stuff. And it's just a real cog in the wheel, basically.
Mm.
So I hope that I was really kind of shocked because I asked the city, I'm like, have you guys hired any more planners or, what's the deal with all this new construction? Like, look, have you seen the OC Vibe? Like, hello, it's
Yeah, that's
huge,
huge,
I
massive.
mean, it seems like they should have designated planners just for these specific
Hmm, hmm,
projects.
hmm.
I don't know if you've ever had to get permits on your house before, but you'll
I
have
have.
like one
Yeah,
inspector one week,
yeah.
then the next week you have another inspector, and then they notice things that the first inspector didn't notice. So now you have more on your punch list.
Hmm, hmm.
Or like if you have a historic property and you have an inspector who's not familiar with historic properties and then starts to bring up, I mean, it's just like the whole thing is a mess. And
Hmm.
so I think that I am really hoping and praying for these people that they have the foresight to go into their departments and to hire what they need to accommodate the amount of building and come up with some streamlined plans so that they can, you know, go through the process a lot smoother for everybody.
Yeah, that would help. And again, this is a brand new bill that looks like it will pass. Well, time will always tell, right? How this impacts the market and how different cities really comply with that process.
Mm-hmm. There's another point on this bill that's called the 200 million annual innovation fund. And it says that this is money coming from HUD. So, like, where has this money been? How are they going to suddenly come up with 200 million a year? I was on this committee for, I don't know, like 15 years called the Community Development Advisory Board, and it was community development money that we used to get from HUD. And so our district here downtown, we would get like, a couple 100,000, and then we were able to make improvements in the neighborhood that would resolve blight. So we put in new sidewalks and curbs and street lights. We got code enforcement, a van so they could go out and color match paint and color and paint out graffiti. We funded a library mobile, which is really cool. It's like my favorite thing ever that we did was because the bookmobile goes into neighborhoods where kids don't get to go to the library on the regular. Maybe they don't have access or not close to it or that sort of thing. So they come in and they come on the bus and check out books, and it comes by
Nice,
once a week. Really
nice.
cool stuff, and that was all funded by HUD. So is that going to all go away because they're going to take?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you look at HUD, how HUD gets funded, they get funded by their upfront mortgage insurance premiums, and they raise those fees. The history behind that is they raised that years ago. They did not have an upfront mortgage insurance premium, just a straight annual 0.5% per year. Well, then they became low on funds, and so the way they raise the funds is to increase the cost, which is now the upfront MIP. I got to tell you, there's got to be billions of dollars sitting there now because the default, because it's really designed to cover defaults. Default
Right.
rate is like this much, right?
Right.
But they've raised this much. So maybe they're going to take some funds from some of that account and fund these other programs with that because they've
Which
got a lot of money
begs,
sitting there.
because it begs the question,
Hmm.
how much on average, let's say around here you're buying a $900 million house, whatever is easy, quick math for you, and somebody's getting a FHA loan and they're having to pay their mortgage insurance premium out up front. How
Part
much
of
is
it,
that?
17,000.
$17,000. Why don't they get rid of that? That would
Well,
make
they should
things
because
a lot
again,
more
that
affordable.
yeah, exactly right. If you look back in the market, gosh, when was it? Early 90s when there was lots of HUD defaults. They had to raise that fund to cover the defaults. Well, guess what? Like everything else, there's default rates is so low, it's so low. But they didn't change that fee structure. So where's that money going? I mean, but to your point, yes, they should knock that out. They should just take
That's
it out.
ridiculous. It's so
Yeah.
much money. I understand the point of it. I get it. I understand. But like it needs to be reassessed because I, as a realtor and I would much rather have the cost to enter the housing market be $17,000 less
Right.
for every one of my FHA buyers or whoever's not
Me
putting
too.
20% down.
Hmm.
I mean, this is what I'm talking about. All this stuff is just goofy. Who came up
Well,
with these things? Do they know that there's a mortgage insurance premium? Do they understand how this gets funded?
well, yeah, that's a whole different discussion. At some levels, as a matter of principle, have an issue with legislators showing us how to run the business when they've never funded an FHA loan. They don't know the system. They've never worked at HUD. They don't have an accounting of those funds. They just create these programs, and they sound great on the surface, and they think that some level they will have some impact. But my gosh, in my mind, we should have people who are experts in this market and housing and the economics of the housing market to be able to really help frame these bills rather than these politicians go, yeah, we want to create this initiative and sponsor the initiative, but without any real true understanding of the complexities of that system. But in principle, what they're doing sounds good. It makes good sense. And like some of that does help. At some level, it will help. If you look back at the Dodd-Frank, I had a problem with Dodd-Frank 15, 20 years ago now. Dodd and Frank, if you recall, they're both in the Senate. And they wrote the Dodd-Frank Act to help the market recover. I thought, what the heck? This thing's like 400 pages or some documents.
Yeah,
What do they know? Right? Now,
right.
some of that stuff has helped a little bit, but yeah, that's a good point. I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, I
We'll
guess
see.
we'll see. Oh gosh. All right. Well, sorry to be a poo-pooer, but anything that that they're passing or working on, look at it, flip it upside down, turn it around,
Well, yeah, to your point,
shake
and
it.
then you brought that up. I got to tell you, if the new bill was, hey, we're taking out the FHA upfront mortgage insurance premium, going, yeah, let's go,
I know. I'd be
yay,
like,
right?
that's
And how
great.
about
Yeah,
along
let's
that?
do it.
Why don't we reduce the down payment from 3.5 to 3%? By the way, long history, FHA used to be 3% down. There didn't used to be an upfront mortgage insurance premium, right? The good news is with HUD, for example, rates are still really low for HUD compared to the market. But
This
darn
is
it,
true.
let's make the cost of entry a little bit more affordable.
Yeah, exactly. Just the cost of entry for each individual. But then the more individuals we have in the market creates more demand, creates higher prices, right?
Well, yeah,
So,
but yeah, for sure. But the whole idea behind HUD when HUD was first organized in around 1930 something, I can't recall the year now. It was designed to help first-time home buyers. It's not called a first-time home buyer program, but the principle behind HUD and what drives HUD is to help first-time buyers get into the market. That's what it's all about. And so if they've got this much money in this fund now, why don't they consider, hello, knocking out that cost if there's so much money sitting in that fund? Where's that money going? Where's it being spent? Where's it going?
right.
I think it's a
Yeah.
fair question.
All right, Rick. Well, that was a great topic for today. I really appreciate that because I've seen it on the news a couple of times, and so yeah, I'm sure people are going to be asking questions about it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad we're on top of this early and listen, time will tell. And I think for the good folks that listen to our podcast, I think this is good information to be aware of what's going on
Yep.
and how it can impact them or help them.
Yeah. So if you have any questions and you want to learn about anything related to real estate, feel free to shoot us a message. We'll be happy to cover your topic. And thanks, Rick.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. Appreciate you as always.
Bye.
See you.